Hi guys, welcome to the Art of Server. So in today's video, I'm going to find the answer to the following question. Does a particular LSI SAS controller support 4K drives? I've gotten this question quite a bit from various people who are shopping around at my eBay store, and they see that I have all these different SAS controllers, most of them LSI based, and they want to know if the 4K drives that they just picked up from somewhere will work with that card. And unfortunately, I haven't been able to give them a great answer to that because I just didn't have any 4K drives with me at the time to verify anything. And you know me, I don't like to just tell you something theoretical without actually validating it firsthand. And so in order to help answer that question, I decided, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and get myself a 4K drive. So that's what this thing here is. Okay, this is a Hitachi 8 terabyte SAS drive, and you'll see that it is a 4K drive. Hopefully you guys can see that. Let me bring a little bit closer. Can you guys see that? All right, so this is a 4K drive. All right, so I got this specifically just to answer that question for you guys. I have no use for this hard drive right now, but anyway, I really wanted to get a definitive answer, not just give you some theoretical or hey, it should or shouldn't. No, we're going to find out if it does or does not. Okay, and so I've got this server here set up with 4 generations of LSI SAS controllers. So let me show you what that looks like here. All right, so I've got 4 HBA cards here. The first one here, down here, is a SAS 2008. This is a 9201-8i. The second one here is a SAS 2308. So that's this is actually a HP H220, but it's basically the same as the 9207-8i. And the third one here is a LSI SAS 3008 SAS controller. And the fourth one here is a LSI SAS 3408 based HBA SAS controller. This is actually a Lenovo, I think 9340-8i, I believe, or Lenovo 530-8i. Anyway, we have 4 generations of LSI controllers here, and we're going to test out that 4K drive with each one of these controllers. Now, most likely, the more modern ones, the 3008 and the 3408, are not going to have a problem with that. But you know what? I figure while I'm here testing it, I might as well definitively answer the question, across all generations of LSI. Well, not all, but the more recent generations of LSI SAS controllers. I don't have any SAS 1 controllers here. I'm not going to work with those because they're just kind of obsolete nowadays. But anyway, so you got a 2008, 2308, 3008, and 3408. And I've got some SAS cables hooked up. This is tied to the direct attached backplane. There are 4 slots here, 4 slots here. These 4 slots are tied to, let's see here, this cable. Yep, this cable, which is a SFF 8087 cable that I'm going to use on the 2008 and the 2308 card. And the other bays over here are connected to the second SAS cable here that is going through this external adapter, which goes to this cable here that ends in a 8643 connector, and I'll be using that to connect to the SAS 3008 and SAS 3408 controllers. Now ignore the blinking lights on the other IBM expander here. That has nothing to do with this experiment here. So anyway, the bays here will be connected to these 2 cards. The bay here will be connected to these cards. So I'm going to plug the hard drive. I've only got one 4K hard drive, okay guys? So sorry, I'm not going to be able to fill up all the bays, but I want to move the hard drive around. I'm going to put it first of all in here in one of these slots, probably just the first one. And that's going to go to this 8087 connector. I'll test out the hard drive while it's plugged in here. Then I'll move the cable over to the 2308 and we'll test out the hard drive while it's connected here. And then I'm going to move that hard drive from this slot over to here. and that will then put the hard drive on this cable. Okay, and that's currently plugged into the 3008, and I'm going to test the hard drive in the 3008, and then I'm going to move that cable over to the 3408, and we're going to test the hard drive on the 3408. Okay, so that's kind of the general procedure of what we're going to do today. Once I have everything plugged in for each test, I will get on the virtual console of the machine, and then we'll be able to kind of take a look. This thing's already booted up into CentOS Linux, and within CentOS Linux, I will show you how this 4KN drive appears in the OS. Are we going to be able to see the full capacity of this hard drive? Are we going to be able to see the smart data off this hard drive? Those are some of the questions I'm going to answer today. So anyway, let's go ahead and get started and plug this drive into the first slot. All right, that'll take a few seconds to spin up here. But mainly, you know, I think without knowing the results of this test yet, my guess is that it's not going to have any problems with the 3008 and 3408, but we're going to just confirm that just to be complete here. The real question is, are we going to have any problems on the 2008 or the 2308? And so I'm going to start with those guys first, and that's what this is plugged into right now. So this is currently on this side, which is connected to the 2008 card. So, all right, so let's go ahead and get on the Java Virtual Console on this machine and see what we see. All right, guys. So this is the Java Virtual Console of that server that we just saw. And so just so you know that this is running Linux, and this is actually CentOS Linux. So that's CentOS 7.7, okay? And you'll see that, let's take a look at all the cards we have here. Okay, so you'll see that we have a SAS 2008. That's the card that the hard drive is currently plugged in. And we have a SAS 2308, which we will test next. And then we also have a SAS 3008 and a SAS 3408. So we've got 4 generations of LSI SAS controllers. These are all HBA IT mode cards right now. And we've already plugged it in, or at least the hard drive, to the SAS 2008. So let's take a look at that. So this is the LSI Util program. And by the way, this is a great program if you're working with LSI cards. I know a lot of you guys flash your firmware with like the SAS to flash and stuff like that, and that works fine for that. But the LSI Util has so much more options, and just a lot more powerful tools. So if you're working with LSI controllers a lot, I highly recommend that you get a copy of the LSI Util. I do have a statically compiled version of this tool that I've made available for download on my website. And if you're not comfortable downloading it from me, that's fine. You can find the source code of this program on the internet somewhere. But you know, if you're not comfortable compiling code yourself, I do have a statically compiled version of this that works on Linux. So if you download it, it should work on most Linux systems. So that's Ubuntu, whatever. I compiled it on CentOS, but since it's statically compiled, it should work on other Linux platforms as well. But anyway, okay, so you see that we have the 4 controllers here. Now down here, the one that says 00AF, this is the 3408, and I think the version of LSI Util is just not new enough to recognize that this is the 3408, so it's just probably, you know, leaving it as a hex code. But anyway, I just want to point that out. I'm pretty sure that this is the 3408 since it mentions a virtual expander here, which is on that 3408. But we have the 2008, 2308, and 3008, and those are fully recognized, no problem here. And we do see the disk. So that 4KN drive is listed here as, at least it's connecting. And it's connecting at 6 gigabit, even though that's a 12 gigabit SAS 3 hard drive. This is a SAS 2 controller, so it'll only connect at 6 gigabits here. But that's fine. That's not our problem. We want to see if we're going to see the full capacity of the 4KN drive, right? Okay, so at least we know it's connected. We know it's there. Let's take a look at... oh, let's see. All right, let me see what drive letter this Hitachi drive has. Okay, so it's showing up as dev SDB. All right. So I'm going to use parted to just look at the partition table, and that usually gives us a good idea if we're able to see the full capacity of that drive. Okay, so it is recognizing that the logical and physical sector size is 4K. Okay, so we are definitely seeing this as a 4K drive, as it should be, and we are seeing a first partition that ends roughly at 8 terabytes. So looks like we are able to see the full size of this 4KN drive on this SAS 2008. But you know what? You know, I had this hard drive already pre-formatted and stuff like that, so this was not formatted on this controller. So let's go ahead and just do that. Okay, I'm just going to remove that partition, and pardon me, my virtual desktop isn't big enough here, so let me scroll down. Okay, and I'm just going to recreate the GPT label. Okay, and no partitions right now. Let's go ahead and make a brand new partition. Okay, I'm going to go from 0% to 100%, and that should be the full capacity of the drive and what this utility is able to see. So let's go ahead and do that. Okay, so even with that, specifying from 0% to 100%, we're seeing that it ends at about 8 terabytes. So it seems that this is perfectly working fine, and this 4KN drive works perfectly fine on that SAS 2008 controller. Now let's go ahead and make a file system on this, on that first partition that I just created. So this is an 8 terabyte partition. I'm using XFS. So with XFS, usually if you can't see the full capacity of the drive, the file system creation step will fail, because it spreads out a bunch of the super blocks across the partition, and if it can't do that, it'll usually error out or issue a warning of some sort. So look, it looks like we're able to format it just fine. Let's go ahead and mount this. Alright, so I mounted under /data, and as you can see, it's showing it as 7.3 terabytes. So that's, you know, the typical issue. It is 8 terabytes. It's just the difference between tebibytes and terabytes. But anyway, yeah, so it looks like on the SAS 2008, this hard drive is completely visible. No problem seeing the full capacity. Let's actually do one more thing. Okay, let's look at the smart data. Alright, so here's the smart data. It is a 7200 RPM drive. Logical block size is 4K. Okay, so user capacity 8 terabytes. So everything looks normal here. Alright, so yeah, so this is good news. This is probably one of the questions that I really had a hard time answering. You know, a lot of people ask me, hey, is this 4KN drive supported? And on the 3000 and 3408, I'm more comfortable saying, you know, most likely it will. But I wasn't really sure about the 2008, and so, but here you have it. It looks like it is. There's no problems seeing the full capacity of this 4KN drive that is 8 terabytes. And keep in mind though that this is running the latest firmware. So if you're running an older firmware, by the way, the latest firmware is P20. But if you are running an older firmware, you may or may not have problems. I don't know. I'm not going to test this out with every older firmware. Just doesn't seem to make sense to do that, but at least with the current firmware available today, this 4KN drive seems to work perfectly fine in this SAS 2008. So if it works fine in this SAS 2008, it's probably going to work fine on the SAS 2308. But you know what? Again, let's actually confirm that before we make that claim. So all right, at this point, let me go ahead and unmount the drive. And let's see, hold on a second. All right, it's still connected. I'm going to go downstairs and go ahead and unplug that cable and put it on the 2308, and we'll come back here and redo that test. All right, I'm back here at the server, and that 4KN drive here is on these bays, so that cable is currently on this SAS 2008. I'm going to move it over to the SAS 2308. Come back here. All right, so now it's on the SAS 2308 card. If it worked on this card, you know, the chances are it's going to work on this card too. But all right, let's go back to the virtual console and test that out. Okay, back at the virtual console, let's see if we see this drive. All right, so the drive is again SDB, but you'll notice that instead of on controller 0010, it is now on controller 7010. And so that is likely the 2308, but we can confirm that with LSI util. Okay, so here is the SAS 2308, and you can see that the hard drive is now connected to that controller and not on the SAS 2008 anymore. It is now on the 2308. Alright, and we know this is SDB, so let's look at the drive again with parted. Okay, so yeah, it sees it as 4K, as a 4K logical and physical drive. It appears to be able to see the full partition, but you know what? I'm going to go ahead and just redo everything we did just to be consistent. Alright, so let's, again, from 0% to 100%. Okay, so even then, it sees the full 8 terabytes. And you know what? Let's just be consistent and repeat the file system formatting. Alright, and let's go ahead and mount this. Alright, so I have it mounted under /data, and as you can see, it's reporting as 7.3 terabytes. So looks like there are no problems seeing this 4K and 8 terabyte drive on the SAS 2308. And you know what? Let's also take another look at that smart data. Okay, and same thing as before. There's a seen as a 4K drive, 7200 RPM. Everything seems normal. Alright, so that pretty much confirms that the 4KN drive also works on the 2308. Now let's go ahead and confirm that also on the 3008 and the 3408. Alright, so next thing is we're going to swap the hard drive from this bay over to here, because the cables on this side are connected to the 3008 currently, and then we're going to move that cable later onto the 3408. Alright, so let's go ahead and unplug this hard drive. Let it spin down a little bit before I start moving around. Okay. Alright, so we'll give it a few seconds for that thing to spin back up, and we should then be able to see it on the 3008 controller, and then we'll see. But you know, if it worked on those two older generation HBAs, again, I don't think this is going to be an issue. It looks like it already spun up. Alright, let's go back to the virtual console and test it out. Okay guys, let's see if we see the hard drive. Yep, the Hitachi drive again is dev SDB. And again, you'll see that the controller number changed from, was it 7010, now is 9020. So it's definitely on a different controller, but we will verify that again with LSI util. Okay, so now we see that the Hitachi drive, that 4KN drive, is now connected to the SAS 3008 controller. And let's go ahead. Alright, everything looks good so far. 4K drive. Again, you know, just to be consistent, I will recreate the partition or the disk label, and then recreate the partition as well. 0% to 100%, and same thing. Basically, we are seeing the full size of that hard drive. And let's go ahead and make that file system once again, and we will mount it once again. Okay, and DF shows us that we have dev SDB1, which is that 4KN drive shown as 7.3 terabytes. So once again, looks like it works perfectly fine in the SAS 3008. So I will unmount that, and let's go ahead and do the final test and move that over to the SAS 3408. Alright, so the 3008 seems to work fine. Let's now go ahead and move this cable from 3008 controller, and I'm going to put it on the 3408 controller. Alright, so now it's connected to that. Let's get back to the virtual console and see how that works out. Alright, final test, guys. Let's see if we see that hard drive. Yep, it's showing up as dev SDB again, this time on 11020. And let's use LSI util again and confirm that it is indeed now connected to this last controller. And again, if you skip the first part of this video, it says 00AF01 here. This is probably just the hex code for the SAS 3408. This version of LSI util probably does not recognize that code as the human readable name. So, but this is definitely the SAS 3408. The hard drive is connected to it, and let's now go ahead and take a look at it from partition table standpoint. And once again, let's recreate the GPT label. Oh, sorry, that's not what I wanted. MK label, GPT. Okay, and then we're going to recreate the partition from 0% to 100%, and once again it shows up as 8 terabytes. Alright, let's go ahead and recreate the file system again across the entire drive, and let's go ahead and mount that. Okay, and DF shows us /data dev, which is a dev SDB1, that's that 4KN Hitachi drive, is showing us 7.3 terabytes, so basically the 8 terabyte drive. Alright, so that concludes our last test, and basically the answer is, or if you skip the whole video, the critical thing to know is that all these controllers from the SAS 2008, SAS 2308, SAS 3008, SAS 3408 LSI controllers all seem to have the capability to support 4KN drives. You know, now with the caveat that I was using a particular model of a 4KN drive. That was the Hitachi a SAS 4KN drive, 8 terabytes. So now you might have problems using other models. Okay, so there's always a chance that some firmware on some hard drive just doesn't like to interact you know, appropriately with the SAS LSI controllers. So you know, obviously it doesn't make sense for me to test all models of hard drives out there for their compatibility, but at the very least it tells you that these controllers, even the older SAS 2008 and SAS 2308, have the capability to address the 4KN drives without a problem. Alright, so hopefully this video and the test I've performed just now helps you answer that question. And if you liked it, please give me a like, and you know, make sure to subscribe if you want to see more videos like this from me. Alright, thanks very much, and have a good day. Bye bye.